All right, everybody, we are back again for another episode of Life After Ball, right? Another chapter of the Coach's Compass, season 2.1, and we're talking everything retirement, seeing what it's like on the other side of football, and talking to another guest with us today, Coach John Matthews, right out of Denmark. You guys already know him. He's from first season one from the Coach's Compass. He is a world-renowned guy. He is what they can call the GOAT, right, out there in Denmark, right? But John, appreciate you jumping on. I got Dory with me again today, and Tara will be jumping in here eventually. But John, we're talking everything after ball. So, man, how was that transition from being done playing football to going into what they consider the real world?
You know, I don't think you ever get over it. You know what I mean? You cross the line, but you're constantly looking back at what was. You're always trying to, kind of recreate, that feeling that you get from, the community, the brotherhood, all these different things that you get from the game. And you just can't get it. It's kind of like a ghost that just hangs around you a lot. And so even though you find successes in life, whether it be your family, whether it be, your career, all these other different things that you're kind of growing, it's really hard to recreate that, moment in time that you have from when you start the game until you finish the game. So I think I'm doing a good job of trying to find other things, but you're always struggling in some kind of space with it. And I just think it's something that it's the ghost of athlete past. You know what I mean? You kind of when you really think about it, that's what really pops into my head. So I think I'm doing a good job of trying to recreate those things, uh but it's difficult. You're kind of lost in the sauce there. How about yourself? I know you've talked about it in some other things, but like, what about yourself?
I think to reiterate that is like, yes, the ghost of the past, because I'm in a situation where I mean, and yourself too, you're coaching football at your school, but I'm in a gym situation, so I'm still kind of I'm trying to figure out how to work out as not being an athlete. Like, what am I training for? There is not really any, like, I don't have a season to get ready for. I don't have preseason or anything like that. I'm not training for a tryout. Like, I'm not trying to be a hybrid athlete and do high rocks or anything. Like, I'm just kind of in the gym and I'm training and I'm just kind of piecing it together. And you kind of like, you've got to really find that motivation and that discipline to kind of keep on going, to keep your body in good shape. And then also knowing when to listen to your body. Like, when am I going to put too much impact on it and lift it too heavy or done too much that day and know how to rest. And I think that's the hard part for us.
Yeah, you said two words. You said the motivation and discipline, and for those things, when I was thinking about the podcast when I was driving around today, going to work, doing my thing, so those were the two words that really popped out, and those are the two things that I really, really struggle with because you're the coach, you're in the gym, and so you're spending all this time, effort, motivating other people towards their goals and their dreams and their visions, but at the same time, at the end of the day, you know, it's hard for you to motivate yourself and to sit there and say like, hey, I have to go through this workout, I have to do those things, and now your tank might be on E. And then the discipline of like saying like, hey, if I am going to get that workout in, I said I'm going to get it in, and I'm going to do these different things. And sometimes, when you're an athlete, that discipline is so strong. You have that vision, you have that goal, and the discipline is there. But once that dream is kind of over and you cross that line, it's very, very difficult to maintain that discipline because it's like, oh, I will. I said I was going to eat healthy, but I don't have the time. And like when you have that dream, it's so easy to like hold on to the fact that, yeah, I am going to eat healthy, and hey, I am going to get that workout in, and hey, I am going to do those things because there is that vision. And so for me, I would probably say, those two things are the things that I struggle with daily, hourly. You know what I mean? I work at this, sports boarding school where there's food everywhere. And I'm constantly saying like, oh my gosh, what do you mean there's cinnamon rolls today? I know there was cinnamon rolls today. I beat the cinnamon rolls, but then, there's some cake at the end of the day. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't fight it. And so, and then, when you're a dad and you got this new family, you got these new responsibilities, it comes down to, the other angle in the sense of, being disciplined. Hey, I have a half an hour. And I said it, in this half an hour, 45 minutes, I was going to do some cardio. I was going to go do some things. But then, hey, the baby was up late last night. And this is the only half an hour, 45 minutes that you have. And so for me, it's been really trying to find a balance between that discipline, motivation, and uh, it's really tough. You probably have the same issue. I know I'm going on for a little while, but you probably have the same issue. My friends, when they want to work out, I got friends my age and they want to work out. And then it's, John, what are we doing? and it's John, come and get me, John, come and get me. Let's go work out. Let's go do these different things. So I'm like, yo, I just spent the whole day motivating some people. Who's helping me motivate? And so I think that, you talk about the motivation, you talk about the discipline, but it's also, who are you leaning on when you're a teammate, when you're in that team, there's not a lot of lean. Now you're the head of the family. You have to be that staple at your job. You have to be that staple. Maybe you're working on some dreams that you have professionally where you're trying to grow and do those different things. That takes your effort. And so, I'm also really struggling with that leaning on. And I try to call some friends and really reach out to my friends and say, hey, I have this long car ride and home and to work every day. I need to really spend that time leaning on my friends and being a little bit more vulnerable in my life in this time because I need some help. I am struggling with it. As men, I think that being vulnerable is very, very difficult. And I don't think that the world is very kind to men that are vulnerable. And so, and I think that that's an important part of life. And so, being able to lean on someone like you do a teammate. Hey, I'm having a hard time going to class. I'm having a hard time going to these meetings or practices. You just had this community of friendships that you were able to lean on, and people pick you up and grow that way. And so that's where, we talked a little bit about the struggles of, the ghost of athletes past, but those are some things that still haunt me.
Tara, welcome.
Yeah, Tara.
Hey, hi.
And I feel like this is like a perfect segment for area for you ladies is to talk about how can we, because we talked about it earlier, about how can we help athletes like John and myself, like telling us that, hey, like we need help. And it's hard to be vulnerable and like know who to trust and who to talk to, who to call on. And what are the next steps that we can take to kind of, get out of this ghost of athlete past and make us feel like we're still needed and wanted, and like feel like we're worthy of the next thing we got going on. And also that, like, you talk about having friends that hit you up about like, hey, like, what's the workout? It's tough because I'm in that situation where I'm a coach here at a gym and people always hit me up for programs and stuff. And you're just like, well, like, bro, like I just programmed out a full day, like you said, for your kids. I just programmed out a whole day for all my clients, for all the classes and stuff. Like, bro, like, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, but like, I've got a friend that you can hit up. And I think that's the part that I kind of lean on. I was like, hey, I know people that you can, and that's what's great about the coaches company. It's like, hey, I have other coaches that come on here, reach out to them because I just don't have the mental capacity for it right now.
Yeah, setting some boundaries, right? Like that, absolutely.
Yeah, and also like what it sounds like from both of your story from that transition going to from being part of a team, having the daily schedule or the daily goals, the weekly goals, the season goals put out in place for you. What I'm actually thinking the most about is you're going from being part of something very unique, but also in a more group setting. And it's not you who's supposed to be the leader, even though you're a leader for yourself. But firstly, going from being part of something and then to lead other people plus yourself is a huge challenge. So my first thinking was actually that what I can hear probably both of you might be lacking in terms of activating that discipline that you already came from. You had a lot of discipline towards something. So it's about pursuing something. It's about reaching another place where you might not have that completely figured out right now, a complete goal that motivates you enough so you have the drive and you can use the discipline that you're used to. Because like Tara and I have been talking about with you, Coop, for the last few episodes was so what I was thinking in terms of you two guys and probably everybody else who goes maybe early on this stage is for me at least I would always look at have some very, very clear clarity on so what's next, what else can drive me towards something. Because I think as an athlete it's always very, very important to have something to go towards because that's all the effort you put into the training, all the struggle you have to deal with going forward towards something. So I think what a lot of people could also even be when you go from the corporate life, and then what's next? What am I achieving? And not to compare myself with you guys because you had something bigger, athletic that you had to pursue. But I remember myself when I used to run, and then I was always on a competition on something. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't able to run anymore. And I still struggle with having that. What am I training towards? And it's easier to just slack a little bit because you don't have a goal anymore. So I think having a clear direction, have a clear clarity on where am I actually going, and it has to be so solid and so clear that it ignites my drive and it motivates me to get there, so that I don't feel like that I have to take all the load of responsibility and the leadership. I'm actually deliberately passionate about getting somewhere. And that might not be the same recipe as it was when I was part of a team, but it's still something that can drive me towards something. Obviously, it's not the same scale necessarily. But what about you two guys? Have you had that some clarity on what direction you're going towards?
Yeah, but I also think what's really one of the most difficult things is there's such a small like a small percentage that is allowed to keep going. And that percentage of people that keep, a majority of people are done after high school. You play your high school, and then it's straight to YMCA. And my nephew, this is his second year out of high school, and he's struggling with this transition right now. He's struggling with the fact that, hey, he's done with ball, and he's not going to be able to play anymore. And he's 19 years old, right? About to turn 20. And I'd probably say a majority of Americans have gone through that at 20, but we've been, you're that small percentage has kept going and kept going and kept going. And you're kind of pushing that struggle to a point where now this sports aspect is such a strong portion of your life. And it's hard to transition. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if you get what I'm saying there in the sense, Desmond, in the sense of like, a lot of these people have already transitioned into this period. And, now they did it at 20 years old, 19 years old, 18 years old. And now you have these people that are in their 30s or, late 20s that are cutting it off, or after college at 24 or however old you're cutting it off. And I think that to be able to have some people to help you through it or even warn you about it, I think that that's the big thing is that it's just this hard stop. And to find those skills that you need to kind of work through I think it's difficult.
Yeah. So we were talking one about the hard stop on like, when we retire or when football's over. Like John was saying, like some people end at 18, 19, some are at 24, 25, and then guys like ourselves are like 30 plus, and then it's all over, and not knowing, not having a fair warning about what's to come next, or not even understanding what is the next thing for us because we've prolonged that struggle for so long. And then also letting go of, like we talked about earlier, is like letting go of that athlete title and not knowing like where our value, like where we are in the rest of the world. And then on top of that, we were talking about just, not having to be that, yes, we played at a high level, and yes, we did a lot of things in the weight room and everything, but sometimes like we want to be coached ourselves. Like we don't want to be the coach title all the time of when we step into the weight room or we go out to the field or you go out to the basketball court, like, hey man, like I just want to be a normal person here, and like I just want to follow the guys. But then when you go with the guys or your friends and they're always like, well, all right, Coach John, what are we doing? Coach Coop, like, hey, what's the workout for today? You're just like, dang guys, I just wanted to show up. Like that's I'm just here for the camaraderie and to hang out. Like I don't want to have to do all
or even, hey, I'll do 5 or 4 out of the 5. Can I get the 1? You know what I mean? Can I fit in the 1? But I will say this, I know, sorry to jump in here. I wanted to kind of like at least say a success thing that I had. And I think that as an athlete myself, everything has always just come to me in a easy way. Hey, here's a ball, go play. Hey, even like when we do soccer with the school at BGI, I'm not a liability. I'm out there playing, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't have any kind of soccer skills. I'm gonna go get a couple goals in here just off of athleticism, right? That's like the mentality that I have. But I took up skiing. The school went skiing, and I had never skied before. And I have been so avoidant after, when you become an athlete and you're growing, I've been so avoidant of, hey, this is an athletic skill that I'm not good at, that I have to kind of start from scratch. And I have to really dig back and really hold on to the foundation of things that I find important as an athlete, in the sense of like, you got to grind, you got to put in the work. You can't just go out there and do those different things. And so was able to spend about 5 days skiing, where it was this level of progression that was, hey, I'm terrible. I got kids saying, hey, John, I've seen people fall down the hill, but I've never seen people falling up the hill as much as you were falling up the hill, right? So like I had to be humble. I had to like take on all of this pride that I have as an athlete and just kind of put it down and go and really pick up something new. And I left that. I'm no X Games skier now, but I left that as a challenge that I accepted. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Was my body hurting? Were I going through some tough things? Yes, but I was really happy and felt that feeling that you get of, hey, I'm grinding on this sport of basketball, American football, baseball, track and field. I'm grinding at my sport and I'm seeing this progression. And I'm feeling the setbacks of falling and in the, being vulnerable in my sport. And so the one thing that I left that experience with was that I need to do a better job of putting my pride down, putting this athlete mask that I have down, and really opening the door to new experiences where I need to fail. In that, hey, I have to be this pillar of success for my family. I have to be this pillar at my job. I have to be this strong foundation in these other areas. But when it comes to new things, I need to go fail. I need to go try new things and really hold on to the foundation of, hey, if I put the work in, I'm going to get 1% better. And every day I do it. And I need to just kind of, I'm living in Denmark, so I got to build that Lego of some kind of new thing and just keep putting a piece on every day. And, I wanted to, really talk about that moment because I felt like, hey, taking my athlete mask off, the pride of failing, all those different things, and trying something new gave me that feeling of being an athlete again. And I, by no means on the ski slopes do I really look like an athlete. I look like this grizzly bear on skis, but I had that feeling again of, feeling the success of that work that you put in.
Mm.
One thing I always do with my clients is in working with them as athletes and when they so-called retire is I reframe it and say you're never not an athlete. That's part of who you are. It is your identity. So even training people up into their later years, I still say we're just looking for opportunities to actualize that potential in a different way. It's who you are. So I've reframed it that way to say you're not just, it's not over, because I think that's part of the loss, that feeling of like complete an utter like being displaced and a wayward child when you're done with a sport, is that you think you're supposed to lay that handle, that identity down, and I don't think you have to. That's my opinion. And when I've had that mentality going, okay, we're just going to reframe it. It was football. Now it's maybe you're doing sliding, you're a bobsleigh athlete, or you're a slider, or now you're a pickleball athlete, or you're taking up skiing. I mean, it's part of who you are. It's what you love to do. It drives your friendships. It drives your like all sorts of relationships. It drives what you want to do in your career. So I think it's something, in my opinion, you don't have to set down. And if you're able to sort of hang on to that, you played this sport and you retired from this sport, that doesn't mean you're not going to do something else and it's not going to be your lifestyle. So that's one thing that I just feel to say. When I reframed it for people, it's like a light switch goes on and there's permission to suddenly be like, you're right. And then it's like amazing even just to watch the transformation in a person who, when they've laid down that athlete identity, it's like they suddenly, I'm not even kidding, are clumping around and uncoordinated and awkward. And then I'm like, Bob, you're still an athlete. It's still in you. It's like shabam. They snap out of it and they're like, you're right. And it's like they completely come to life again. So I think there's something about holding on to that, and not in an unhealthy, like you were saying, that barbecue uncle last time we talked about this, Desmond, who just can't let go of talking about the days when he was doing all this stuff. It's maybe barbecue uncle is like, that's who I am still, and I don't know how to be that. And so I don't know, just another perspective.
Yeah, but I will say it is difficult. You say you're always an athlete, but I do a lot of I'm working with a lot of 16, 17-year-olds, and feeling your body, and Desmond, you're gonna learn about this in a couple of days, when you're not jumping as high and you're not moving as fast, and the moves that you used to do don't do. There is this level of, I don't know, it just it's hard to snap out of that feeling. I don't know if it's, I don't know, you feel your age, but it's more of, man, I used to do these things and I can't do them like I used to. And I don't have a confidence. I'm always going to be the barbecue guy that's like, hey, give me the rock. Hey, at the gym, this is John Matt. When I walk into the basketball court, it's John Matthews' court. What are you guys doing on it? And I'm just talking trash. I'm not going to have that issue, but it's maybe it's redirecting that thought, like you talked about earlier, of who else at 38 is doing this? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, maybe it's like redirecting that thought and thinking about, if LeBron James is still an athlete, I'm still an athlete. You know what I mean? Maybe it's maybe it's redirecting that thought, but I do think it's a challenge, and I do think that having some information, or at least having a mentor, having some more conversation, I think this is great for athletes to transition, because that ghost of athlete past is just something that is there all the time, and it may not be affecting you all the time, but it's sitting in the back of your head, definitely.
It's just I was just going to ask you if I've experienced that ghost of athlete past, that some athletes who have been at their prime before suddenly feel like they don't want to take up something new because people are expecting them to be amazing and they do suck, and it's horrible to have to face that, like a brand new sport like trying to ski. And so it's almost like you start to have those people that come out of the woodwork and try to compete with you all the time and make you feel silly. So I know that, in some cases where I've dealt with folks that have retired from something, they suddenly, they avoid competition like the plague, because there's always someone trying to take them out. Like a couple guys I know went to play flag in a men's flag casual league, and they had people trying to take their knees out all the time and prove that they were washed up and prove that they weren't who they said they were. And there was that constant need for people that maybe haven't played sport to try to disprove who you were or are. And there's that dynamic too that's really frustrating. So I know a lot of athletes are just like, forget it. Like, I'm not even going to bother taking up a new sport because people are just always going to try to beat me and cheap shot me or something like that. Has that been an experience you've had?
For me, not as much. I felt like I had that more when I was at my highest level. I had more of guys, hey, when I would go back home and do things or play in different leagues during the summer or something, in the off season, there was a lot of, well, this guy played here or does this. Look at me. I'm going to go outshine him. I'm going to go do all these different things against him. And so I felt like there was more of a push that way. Now it's more of the you don't got it. And I guess it's more of the I'm gonna go show that you don't got it. Really. And I like that aspect. It's fun. But I think it, when you really reflect over it like we kind of are right now, I do think that I haven't spent a lot of time being humbled in my career. And I think that maybe that this is the time that I need to sit and be more humble in my you know the output that my body's putting in and who I am as an athlete. I need to be a little bit more humble and accept these things instead of fighting against what's real, what's true, right? I'm not as fast. I'm not these different things. But what also is true is that how do I put in the work to get better here? How can I have that, like we talked about earlier, motivation, discipline? How can I be better in these different places? So, reflecting over it, I think a lot about the fact that I haven't been humble. Hey, guys talking trash, guys gonna come in here, hey, watch, look, I've always been a talker. I've always been, hey, I'm gonna go and show you with my pads or with my skills that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out and show you. And so I haven't had those humble situations and now I'm struggling with these humble situations that I have to have. And so I was sitting back and reflecting on, changing the thought, I think is like just a really good thing that we're talking about. And yeah, what about you? What about you, Coach Coop? What are your thoughts when it comes to that?
For me, I think as the other side is I fear myself more than anyone else when I go out there and wanted to do like something competitive. Like, so if I were to do flag football or go play beach volleyball or something like that, I like to win too much. And I don't know if people have that same mindset. So I don't really join in on these things because I can't go out there and just like kind of give a half effort and like not try to win, even if it's, and this is what like the mindset I've always had when I was also playing. And like, this is the mindset that like my coaches instilled in me is that like, hey, like if your mom was to line up across from you, like, are you going to try to win or are you going to take it easy on her? It's like, for me, like, no, fuck no, I want to win. Like, that's just how I am. And that's just how I'm wired. So I'm like, I can't show up to events and just be like, okay, like we're just out here for fun and stuff. And it's kind of almost the same way with like my daughter. And like when people say like with kids that come to class and we're playing the game and they're just like, you're not gonna take it easy on the kids. Like, nah, like the rest of the world isn't easy. And like I also want to win. Like it don't matter to me how old they are. The world out there doesn't care about how old they are. Like I just want to compete. And I don't know if that is gonna rub people the wrong way. So I just kind of sit back and I watch and I like allow people to have their fun if that's what they consider fun. Like for me, fun is winning. And I don't really know how to flip that off sometimes. And I don't want to like offend anyone or kind of put people in situations to where like because like John said, like I also do have the problem where like I don't know when to stop talking like trash, because when somebody starts talking to me, like then it's like a switch. Now you're not gonna cut me off, because now I just definitely want to beat you
Yeah.
and make you mad about like you actually talking to me and thinking that you're on my level. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just that's the hard part for me when it comes to like playing those like flag football, basketball, and all those other things.
Yeah, there is no, that's Europe's a little different, but there is no middle ground, especially if you're an American. It's either you're in the NFL or the NBA, or there's no, Division 6, Division 5, all these different middle grounds. And so absolutely, hey, I want to go play, rec league basketball. Where's the trophy? We're gonna go get it. And I can't just
Right.
play. It doesn't matter if it's a men's league or what it is. It's hard to dial it down, because maybe it's, reflecting over it now, maybe it's, you know, that's not the definition of sport. I don't know, but
I don't know.
that's been it for me. And that's how I found success. And you watch those documentaries with like Michael Jordan, and some people took it the wrong way. But if you're an athlete and you've gone through those struggles, you have the respect of, hey, that's just what made him great, and that's the way that he went about it. And maybe other ways work for other people, but yeah, it's hard to find some kind of transition into the sport where it's, and then maybe that competitiveness is, turned up a little bit too much, and it's hard to play something small. Because for me, it's Monopoly. My family is like, yo, I can't play Monopoly with you, John, because you got to win. And hey, it's Uno, and you're getting this draw 4. I'm sorry, Mom, but I'm
Yeah,
throwing
it
it.
don't matter. I'm trying to win.
And
Oh my
so
gosh, I know that so
it's
well.
a struggle. But the fun thing is like, I love if I'm playing Uno with 4 other athletes, because then like it's just, I get the locker room. I get that feeling that I get again just from Uno. I don't need to go play an American football game or some kind of big competition. I can get all the community, the competition, the things in something that small. And so, I think it really takes work, like it does to be a better person, like it does to be a good dad, to recreate that feeling that you got as an athlete. And I don't think that people really understand that, you know, like I said, hey, I got to go try this new sport, and I got to fail. I got to be humble and do these different things. But I also have to, find a group of friends in a situation, in a circle that is going to be competitive the way that I think it's going to be fun. And then maybe it is Uno, or maybe it is Monopoly or Risk or whatever, that's going to be so competitive that I get that feeling again. And it doesn't have to be wearing and tearing on my body. I still get that sense of community, but it's work. And I don't think that, a lot of athletes understand. They just kind of sit in that feeling, or they carry that feeling. And I think that
I can offer something because I'm way down the road on this with the athletes I work with, and also just being married into pro sport for a long time and watched the retirement and the process of retirement, now a couple decades later. And I can say that the mental health challenges, the like totally feeling lost, and, guys that haven't done well post retirement have been the ones that have suppressed that aspect, like not been, tried to go and fit in and, not be competitive. And the lessons, you're right. What you said earlier, I think I agree with you that, sometimes there's some humbling that's needed, like that can be really great for your character and all that stuff. But ultimately, when they've found their stride again, like I've watched, just to clarify a little bit, I've watched some folks really go through some very dark, bad things after retirement, very dark, hospitalized, on drugs, not okay. Just completely were at the pinnacle of their careers and completely lost it. And they tried to fit in. They tried to be sort of quote unquote normal, whatever it was, and suppress who that was that made them successful in the first place. And it wasn't until they reconnected with their teammates or people like them and started playing Uno with guys, like you said. Like we used to have games nights with guys that had retired or guys they're playing with, and they were crazy. Like no other normal person would ever want to play games with all of us. Like it was awful. Like we were awful to each other, like awful. Like the things we'd leave like and be like, we're never talking to you again, and then we'd be playing again the next week. It didn't sit well with a lot of folks, but it was the sudden light bulb moment where it's like, actually, those are my people, and that's who I am, and I need to spend time with them. I need to connect with them and work with them every day. That allowed some of these folks to recover and get out of those dark places and find themselves again. So I would just say, like from an old woman perspective that's lived this and walked on this path with lots of folks way past the years of retirement that you are at right now and say, like, don't lose those people. Find them, seek them out. That doesn't mean that you don't have to learn lessons. I'm not saying I know the answers, but I'm just, basically sharing wisdom from watching people fall on their faces and lose themselves and become very unwell. They did get great lessons of being humble and trying to integrate appropriately into the work environment. We talked last episode about, pranking people in the workplace that didn't go over very well based on people don't accept locker room behavior all the time in all the places, and they need to learn how to do that and assimilate. But also their true happiness came from connecting with the people that you can play Uno with and completely be competitive with. So I think that's what I mean. I think by you're not hold on to that athlete identity in the sense that is essentially who you are and helped you be creative and competitive and successful. If that makes any sense at all. And sorry, I'm actually surrounded by a whole bunch of people that are trying to go curl right now. Like there's like suddenly 50 people to my right. They're all dressed up, ready to curl. There's a sport that you could just take up as curling. I have not tried that.
Hey, I heard that's the ultimate dad sport right there.
Hey, Desmond, I'm gonna whoop your ass in some curling.
Hey, bro, I'll be out there sweeping crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna go practice right now. My girlfriend's gonna be happy, right? I'm gonna be in there sleeping up. But my question is, this is something that, and I know we're maybe strapped for time. My struggle is, you always have these two. They say you got your angel, you got your devil on your shoulder. And as an athlete, it's always been easy for me to have the angel say, like, "Hey, the vision is a national championship. The vision is you being the best player that you can be in the league." And that's always been such an easy way to steer me over here. But now later in life as a dad, I'm struggling. I'm going, you don't look like the other dads. Go get this cheeseburger. Go get this cinnamon roll. You don't need this workout the same way because look at the other dads. Look at your peers, right? It's always, hey, yo, somebody's going to take your spot behind you. If you go and do this, somebody's going to take your spot. And so there was always this really easy way to have motivation, discipline, because there's always the next guy up that's going to take your job. If you want to be there's also the competition of I want to be the best. There's also this team goal of, hey, we're trying to win this championship. So it's always easy to have that angel guide you. But right now, when it comes to lifting, coming to maintaining these different things, that other side is like, it's a battle. It's a fight between the two all the time. And that good side isn't always winning where, Mike Tyson, when you're coming up, this angel was Mike Tyson. It wasn't being messed with. You had this vision, this goal that you could go towards. What are some advice that you could give, other coaches that are going through this, that are really struggling with maybe the discipline, the motivation that we talked about, where, they're really lacking that and maintaining it when they were an athlete and it was so easy. Now it's harder later.
Yeah, I would like to comment on that because the danger with this comparison is actually that when you're so driven for that vision that you mentioned, then actually you're in a phase of your life where usually in the miss, just to say a number, but at least you're in the 20s, and no matter what profession you're actually at in your 20s, that external drivers is usually way different from what it is in your 30s. So the mistake with this and the failure with this is actually you try to go for the same thing that ignited some motivation back in the days, but it doesn't match up anymore because it's an internal driver you have when you get in the 30s. So just by establishing from yourself, from your own history, is actually finding out all these things that was my vision and why I wanted to accomplish these things. Then the why did you want to have that? What feeling did you get from achieving these things? And whatever the answer is for that, you have to put that into a new equation, which is your new recipe, because it's still the same feeling. It's just a different recipe. So you want to find out in your 30s, okay, what I want to feel is that I want to feel proud. I want to feel that I'm a role model. I want to feel happy with what I'm doing. I want to feel satisfied with my accomplishment, with my effort. Okay, so that's completely different. It's no longer the external driver's goals that you were having in your 20s as an athlete, because you could have been something else. But to establish and also diagnose, what did it give me? What kind of feelings did it give me to go for these things? And then put them into the new chapter that you're going through in your 30s. But I also want to add to that Sorry, John. I just want to also add onto that, because in this podcast, obviously, we're talking to the mass, and I'm pretty sure that we can never have one recipe that works for everybody. So what probably your struggle, Coop, is not the same as John's, and then somebody else might be on another journey as well. So I think it's very important that we also not try to put, there's only one thing that will help everybody. So, but I do think that what I hear both of you saying a lot is that the things that you were missing, not having, is probably pretty much the same thing on yourself, because you know what it is that you are missing besides the locker room, besides being part of the team. But it's something that it gave you. What did that make you feel that you want to find in another setting? Because obviously you need to find something else, which could be your profession, it could be your career, it could be in your social living, or even like Tara mentioned, find a group where you can be, be foolish again, be playing around, or be competitive. Whatever that will be, would obviously not be a professional sports career, maybe, or maybe it will. But I think that's the key for this, and I think you were actually also touching on something really interesting, John, when you mentioned the skiing thing. Being humble about, yeah, I am the athlete still, and you will probably always be that athlete once, but that athlete can also bring in the experimentation with yourself in another sport. So I think it's also really cool to hear that you did that on the skiing trip you did.
But Dora, is it nostalgia? Is it nostalgia for me? Because I do feel like a lot of times I am making a similar recipe but with other ingredients, but the cupcake isn't tasting the same, Dora.
No.
And so, do you know what I'm saying there?
I get you.
So for me, I'm just sitting here thinking, is it the nostalgia of it that, hey, you have this view of the past that might not be the truth, if that makes sense? Is it, or is just it, hey, I am not putting the right spices in there and I need to keep experimenting with the different ingredients that I'm putting in? Because
Well,
I will
I
say,
think,
like we talked about before, I will say that, the skiing thing is a new ingredient that I got to put in the cupcake, because that is something that I didn't want to
yeah.
put in. I said, hey, I don't like, this type of flavor, but I did try it and it was great and it did make my cupcake feel better. So does that mean, or taste better? So does that mean that I need to, just keep experimenting, and maybe there's some nostalgia of the past, and maybe it wasn't as perfect and hygge beautiful that it was, and cozy as it was in the past, and that I just have a really good feeling about, about what happened.
it's a little bit like comparing it with everything you do the first time has an extreme emotional feeling attached to it. And sometimes when we try to go out and have the same experience and the emotional feeling it creates, we just get disappointed. You probably remember that. And there's also something to understand that even in our teenage years, things are just so much stronger, which is the memory of the past that you actually try to continue on. But it's also the acceptance of, well, what was in my youth might not be the same again. So yeah, the cupcake might not taste as good again, but that's for you to create. So what other recipe in my cupcake will be similar, but not expecting it to taste the same way? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, yeah.
So I think it's also
This
about
analogy
accepting.
that we're using. I gotta go I gotta go eat something now. That's gonna be perfect for me,
Exactly.
right?
But then again, I also want to add, because in the beginning where you talked about, and you have mentioned that a lot, like mentors, yeah, I mean, anytime, because even you mentioned, John, just by being alone, even though you have company, even though you have relationship and everything, but it's the loneliness of separation from something you went from. So I would obviously say, even if it's groups, but have a mentor that guides you through that difficult transition, that it will be no matter what. And it's also accepting, yeah, this will be hard, right? But have I tried something hard before? Yes, I have. But maybe you need somebody else to be on your journey, which is not something for your relationship to be even able to understand.
I think it's incredibly difficult. And I don't know and it kind of gets me back to that same lifting thing that maybe Coop wants to talk about as well. I have a million people I'm a mentor for a million people. I'm
Yeah,
a
you
million
are, but
other
you don't
people.
have them.
It is impossible. I feel like I am begging. I'm almost at the point where I'm just going to write on Facebook, write on LinkedIn. I am looking for a mentor. Can somebody mentor me? Because I'm the mentor of 30
Yeah,
other people.
yeah.
And so I'm at the place where it's like, hey, I'm looking, I'm searching, but I can't find. I'm begging for, hey, coach's compass. My name's John Matthews. I am looking for a mentor. If I'm looking older, the person that would love to mentor a middle-aged coach, no longer young, a middle-aged coach, I'm begging for a mentor. So I think it's also difficult to be vulnerable there. It's difficult to find mentorship, but it's easy to be a mentor.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's something that I think is a real call to action we talked about last time, is that you have that. So I'm just in Canada, assembling some groups of people that have like lived through the Olympics, gone to the Olympics a bunch of times or played in high level sport, that have lived some serious bumps and lumps along the way with retirement. Tried I'm going to assimilate into real life and see how I do and be humbled and do all those things. Found their heads and were like, I need to find my people again. And I've gone through some really positive learning experiences, some not so great not great learning experiences, and found their way back with the help of mentorship. So that's something that I'm in Canada assembling with some folks, and some sort of like leadership, I guess. So you join a pod and you basically talk about these types of things, because I've had to help. My job in sports science is to identify opportunities to actualize your potential. And I kind of get called in to help when people are not adapting on time, things have gone sideways, and they still have to compete. And if I scale that to what happens when you retire, it's the same thinking. I've used the same thinking when I deal with people that have retired and still want to stay in that kind of shape or be successful. And one of the things I feel like they miss the most is, and they get depressed about. Can you hear me okay? You should see, there's literally 50 people and their grandpas all around me right now. There are 50 people. It's speaking of all this, but one of the things that they miss a lot, and I help them tap into, is they don't want to settle. They don't want to settle for not actualizing their potential and being the best they can be all the time. Um, that's how they want to be the very best, and they feel like they have to apologize for that, and they can't find people that are like, saying, just dial it back a bit. You had your fame, you had your whatever, like learn to just be humble. Is that learning to be humble, or is that actually abandonment of self? Is that compromising who you are to not be your best? And so they become like mired in like the day-to-day sort of like not feeling like they fit in, letting themselves go, getting overweight, feeling yucky, taken up, and then starting to drink and party too much because they just need to feel something different. But what they're really missing is that they want to be the best, and they don't want to settle for that, and they don't want to be around people that aren't about that. And so they get super down and depressed, and they reframe it to be, oh, I guess I just need to be humbled, versus maybe they've just grossly compromised themselves. And so it's like waking up to the possibility that you need something to drive you to actualize your potential. And that's not something to apologize for. And when people wake up and realize, I've been apologizing for trying to be great, like trying to be the real me, and I'm over it. And it's when they make that transition to being like, no, I'm gonna go start this like awesome business and I'm gonna crush it. And I'm gonna take up a new sport later in life, and I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be the best masters athlete. I'm gonna go to masters games and do this, or I'm going to coach at a really high level and I'm going to do all the work. It's not until they make that switch and be like, I'm done with trying to fit in and apologize for being great, that they make the big switch. And then that's when the success hits. And that's where I sort of got from Michael Jordan and people like that. Expect it to just be your time. You had your time. Is that it? Like, you had your time. So the guy at 19 had their time, and now they just have to go out in the rest of their life and live in mundaneville and just kind of be a shadow of their former selves. So when you talk about the ghost of athletes past, I'm wondering if that ghost instead of is more of like, that was you, and you're haunted by the fact that you don't get to be you anymore. Whether that's, now you're an amazing accountant or you're an amazing coach. So that's what I've identified. And when I tap into that and say, let's find that guy again, and what can we channel into? It's then the light turns on. Then they're healthy. Then they're like, I'm leaving this behind, and I'm not going to be that person anymore. So that's where I've taken, to clarify my point earlier, that's where I've taken my, work with people that were athletes and retired, and either I give them a chance to go into a second chance sport, look for a talent transfer opportunity, but it's not forsaking that I want to be great, because that's what they've been blessed to be. in some form, it's finding a new avenue for that, and not sort of hanging around with folks that keep you low. And for me, that's the key. And that's how I see people have miraculous, the Tom Bradys that keep playing into their 40s. I've helped lots of people be like that. Not him. That's my research. That's my work, is extending sport life. And the concepts of how to do that are universally applied to lots of different industries. So, let's be great in your business. Let's be great in whatever. Let's find that thing that gives you that passion that you can use that drive for, and be great and don't apologize for it. And that's where people have been, and then the science and how to be that way and physiologically and all that stuff, and to keep you playing like Tom Brady played for as long as he did, is something that I love to figure out as a scientist. Is like, all right, let's figure that out. Yeah, you can't squat that way, but I bet we can run almost as fast if we do this. And that's where I found the joy in figuring that out. That's a big epiphany I've had lately, is like, stop apologizing, stop trying to fit in. Because I'm watching like retired athlete who's 350 pounds of not good weight, and drinking too much and depressed and feeling lost, and being barbecue uncle, because they're not that guy that just couldn't get over it. They're like, that's who I am, and I don't know where to go to be that way anymore. So that's a perspective I offer. I'm not sure if that's something you relate to, but that's what I've found has been the linchpin in people turning it around and being healthy, well, and successful and fulfilled, is when they stop apologizing for, feel like stop apologizing for their success, I guess, and start going to find new ways.
I really like that. That's who you are, and you have to really find a way to make that this new you, this new path that you're on. You have to maintain. You're still that person, but you have to go. I like that aspect of it. But like we talked about a little bit before, I got to run at 17:30.
Yeah,
And
I know everybody's busy,
Yeah.
and I love what we talked about today, and I'd love to get on another one. We'll definitely go a little bit deeper into more things that we got going on. Just wanted to extend, hey, John, man, if you need anybody to talk to, I can't tell you everything about life or anything like that, but if you need somebody to listen, I'm here for you. And I know two great people in this chat right now that have also been two people that I've leaned on for a lot of things that can also mentor you, help you, listen for a whole different perspectives. So I just want to extend it out to you, brother, and let you know that I'm always here in your
Appreciate
corner.
it, man. I might have to,
100%.
make a little video so that when you have these little episodes at the end, I got a little interview that I could throw out for these different mentorships, because I'm looking. But we talked about it a little bit before. I have that guilt of, I know that you're carrying all these mentorships. I know that these other people are carrying. So it's being vulnerable and being able to go out and put yourself on the table. Absolutely, for sure.
We're all here for each other. But hey, appreciate you guys and all your
Absolutely.
time. And we'll get to it again.
Thank you so much.
Great to
Thank
meet
you.
you. Bye,
See you
guys. Have a
guys.
good-
Bye.